Welcome, 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 everybody. Dr. Jason Dean here. We're gonna run quick today because we have I have pretty much an hour, but it's a lot of data, and it's good data, but it's investigative data, and this thing is so. We'll go over it. It's a mess, right? You can go over, find the Rumble channel on drjasondean.com. If you hit the live at the top, it'll take you right over to Rumble. But also, Substack is hopping almost better now than Rumble. It's not quite there, but it's getting there. So www.drjasondean.tv. You can get the live there, and there's no commercials there, which is kind of cool. But also, I want to take you over to X. We are live on X, obviously, but I'm going to take you over to show his site right now, which is I have Jason Goodman on today. So go over to Crowdsource the Truth. You can look up Crowdsource the Truth on X. It'll come up. It's at JG_CSTT, which is basically Jason Goodman, Crowdsource the Truth. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to bring Jason up here because it's been a long time. How are you, my man?
I'm well. Good to see you, Jason.
It's good to see you. Now, I'm going to preface this with, I'm from New York originally, and not New York City like you, but I'm from upstate New York. And yeah, my wife's always like, you're not really from New York City, you're just New York. And I go, yeah, I get it.
New York.
But I have a lot of friends. I went to SUNY system. I have a lot of friends from the city. I spent some fun time in the city, I said. And so I carried over the New York City personality and attitude, and the sailor mouth sometimes, which is a lot of fun. So I started waking up. 9/11 was obviously my JFK moment, right? I was in college. I remember the day. I bought a hook, line, and sinker because I didn't know any better at that time. I grew up in a conservative family. War hawk personality. I didn't find like libertarianism until much later. And about 2005, as I started waking up, and in 2008 is when I basically found Ron Paul. And I wouldn't call myself an uppercase libertarian because I don't really like the party politics of any of them, but a truth seeker, basically, of like realizing this is all a system. And so I woke up to 9/11 was the first thing I woke up to, which was a very hard pill to swallow when you realize, and I don't have all the answers to this day. I just know it's not what they said, basically. And as you go forward and see these psychological operations happen, whatever they are, you wake up more and more to the point where this Charlie Kirk stuff, I'm just going to be blatantly out front. This is a clusterfuck, Jason. Like, I had people on before last week where they literally talked about like it's a movie, and I'm not saying I agree with that or not, but I'm willing to look at the different avenues of like, did he even die? And I think he did. But the more I look at this, Jason, anything is possible at this point. I'm not saying you agree, but like, is that the same mentality you're kind of going into this with?
Absolutely, that anything is possible. Now, I'll caveat that by saying extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Correct.
So people who just throw it out there that he didn't die and there's a trap door, that's not extraordinary evidence. We need a detailed explanation. And just to touch on something that you opened with, I sort of became, red-pilled, as it were. My father took me to see the Oliver Stone movie JFK in 1990 or 1991, and I had never considered, like you, I grew up in a conservative family. I was born in the Bronx, but grew up on Long Island, so, wasn't in New York City full-time until college. But life was good. I trusted the government, rah, rah, America, Rambo movies and all that.
Right.
And even when I saw JFK and started saying, wait a minute, this all makes sense. What we've been told about this is a lie. I still, when 9/11 happened, initially believed what they were telling us. So it's not a binary process. It's something that happens slowly. And, our mutual friend and associate, John Cullen, when I first met him, he was doing research into the Las Vegas shooting.
Right.
And the thing that, pardon the pun, triggered him on that is that he has a lot of knowledge, a lot of technical knowledge about guns and experience shooting. And just whatever it was that he had heard on the news about that incident, his mind said, that's impossible. It didn't happen the way they're telling us. It took years after that for him to come to the kind of realization that you're talking about, which is virtually any of these events appear to be, not just any, virtually every one of these events appear to be falsified in some way. So I don't believe that Charlie Kirk is still alive. I do believe he was murdered on September 10th. We saw a lot of blood. You're a doctor. We saw a lot of blood flowing out of his neck. I was previously a visual effects cinematographer. I've worked in Hollywood on Spider-Man, X-Men, etc. All these people who are saying, oh, that's a squib, that's fake blood. They have never worked with those tools. You cannot effectively hide those things from multiple angles, a live audience. Squibs frequently fail. They leave burn marks. It would be very painful. You can't act in the way that Charlie Kirk acted there. The guy's body froze. He fell over in a way that if he weren't dead, he would be seriously injured from that fall. He's dead.
When I saw the original file within minutes after it happened, the original on X, somebody put it up there, and I saw the left side of his neck essentially explode. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God. And I've been around blood and stuff, but it's not fun for me to watch. We don't like it. It's not I try not to see it. I didn't look at the train one at all because I didn't want to see that gore fest. But basically it happened. And then I started seeing these posts of he's on the way to the hospital. They have a pulse. And I go, no, he doesn't. He's dead on contact.
Yeah, absolutely.
You blew out his entire artery system of the neck. He's he didn't hit the ground. He was gone before he hit the ground. There's no way he got a pulse on this guy.
I agree. It was like they turned on a faucet. And listen, I didn't want to be negative. I was on a live stream when it happened, and I was on an X space, and I just happened to be the first person in that particular space who saw the news. And everyone was like, "Oh, we're praying for Charlie Kirk." And I said, "Hey, listen, I don't want to be negative or anything, but there's no way he's surviving this." Like you said, I mean, it was literally like a faucet got turned on. And all these theories with the exploding microphone and everything, I'm open to listening to that. But again, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I just don't understand how an explosive device under his shirt doesn't burn the shirt, stain the shirt in some way. We don't see any chemical residue. How does this explosion work?
Which is interesting because in the white shirt, I think is so important with this, right? I mean, obviously he wasn't wearing black, he wasn't wearing blue, and everyone kind of is like, oh my gosh, the one day he wears a white shirt out there. It is very odd, other than some, I think on his arm when they were carrying to the SUV, you might see some on his arm. It's shocking how much there isn't splatter.
Blood
there's
all
not
over the
burn.
shirt.
There's not, and that, obviously, Jason, not to sound humorous, but I can't eat anything for lunch with a white shirt on because I know something's going to get on it. And his was basically spotless, which is shocking to me.
Well, here's what I'll say about that. We haven't really seen, throughout this whole thing, we haven't seen very much high quality imagery of this. It's a lot of really decimated videos that have come from TikTok to X to YouTube that people screen capture on their phone and crop and zoom in. I see morons on X doing optical flow analysis on videos with a bit rate so low.
And this is your specialty, by the way. This is
right.
You know this world.
Yes. Yes, that's important for people to understand. In my career in Hollywood as a visual effects cinematographer, I was specialized in stereoscopic 3D. I've invented camera systems and optical systems, workflows for visual effects pipelines, and I was meticulous in this work because to create visual effects for stereoscopic 3D, the threshold for error is you cannot have any or the shot fails. Now, stereoscopic, I'm talking about a 3D movie where you put on the glasses, Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men, Days of Future Past, these films. There was a big run from 2009 to about 2013. Everybody remembers, I didn't work on Avatar, but that was the film that really kicked it off.
Yeah.
There are a lot of errors in Avatar that I would have found unacceptable if I was working as a visual effects artist or a visual effects supervisor on that film. People might find that, oh, Jason, you're smarter than James Cameron. I'm not saying that, but I used to be hired by companies like Disney and Sony to go to Technicolor and Photochem and IMAX and tell them what they didn't understand about digital imaging. Because remember, those were photochemical companies that were coming over into the
Sure.
world of digital imaging. And so when I see people doing these detailed analyses on, I mean, first of all, the best quality imagery that we're going to get in most cases is going to be maybe a 10 to 20 megabit per second file from a cell phone. So it's not like we're dealing with a big, 4 or 6 or 12K image from a high bit rate movie camera like a Red or a Sony Buron or something like that. These are, even in the best case, pretty low fidelity images. And the second you upload it from your phone to X takes it and it's processing it, right? It puts it into whatever codec they're using on X servers, and it changes certain things and slightly reduces the quality. Not in a way that you're really going to notice it just from watching a video of somebody's cat or something like that.
But
But
you're
when
going
we
to see
want
it.
to zoom in on fine details and discern, wait a minute, is this a dot flying towards Charlie? Is this something exploding on the microphone? Or is this just a blurred image from video compression? These sort of details matter. So, the thing that I've been focused on, Jason, more so than being the first person out there with some kind of theory that explains what's going on, I've been focused on trying to track down the best elements. In other words, if I see a video that has an interesting angle or shows an interesting feature of what happened, I want to try to contact the person who posted it and say, were you there? Did you record this on your phone? And in every case except for 2, where I've gotten any kind of response, which is very few, every case except for 2, the people who have uploaded the videos don't know where they came from, didn't shoot them on their own phones. The only 2 original source videos that I've obtained are one from Adam Bartholomew. He is at Life is Driving on X and Life is Driving on YouTube. He's the guy who shot an 1 and 7-minute continuous live stream. I've communicated with him by telephone. He sent me his original file, which is 8 times. It's about 1 gigabyte if you download it from 1 to 2 gigabytes if you download it from YouTube. What he sent me is 8 gigabytes. So something like 4 to 8 times the amount of information is contained in the original file. That's what's allowed me to enlarge images and determine what's an insect, what's an eagle,
Right.
what's a drone. You can't necessarily do that from these low quality decimated files. And it's like me trying to read a book without my glasses on. I can't see what the letters say. You've got to first have the sharpest picture of what you're looking at before you can make any kind of accurate determination.
That makes total sense. Well, you have screen sharing capabilities. I want you to jump right in. Obviously, we have a little less time today than I would normally want with you, because obviously your vast background and research has been fantastic. But you dive right in and show us what you're seeing.
Well, let me show you this. I want to break some news right here on your show. I've been doing some research with a guy named Zeb Boykin, who a lot of people have seen. Zeb is doing excellent work. He is a former Marine sniper. And so someone sent Zeb this video. I've got 2 versions of it here. I don't know if you can see that. There's one on the right side of the screen. It's Charlie sitting there, says, "Prove me wrong." And then on the left side of the screen, I've overlaid the vertical video from somebody named I Am Ricky Diaz. And so let's just look at this real quickly.
So do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Okay, now I don't want to get into the gore and all the terrible stuff that happens to Charlie, but I want people to observe something about these 2 videos. And this is where we get into really the forensic analysis of these digital files and why it's so important. So a lot of people have seen this angle. Maybe they've seen the vertical video. Zeb obtained this full resolution, essentially 1920 by 1080 HD resolution video. And when we first saw it, we were like, oh, wow, this looks like the original file. But it turns out the full resolution file is only presented at 20 frames per second. Now, the normal rate for video on a phone or a television is 30 frames per
Right.
second. But of course, modern phones can shoot at 60 frames per second. They can even go to 120 and 240 frames per second, which is sort of a high-speed mode that you would use if you wanted to do something in slow motion. Now, you have to deliberately set your phone to these modes, and most people don't do that.
They don't
Most
know
people
that.
just leave it at 30 frames per second. Some people prefer 60. They are dialed into the fact that it gives, smoother motion and stuff like that. But the point is, this video, when we began analyzing it, the full frame video, we realized it was 20 frames per second. And this all came about just yesterday. Actually, there's something else important I want to show you about this video, because I had put a version of this on my X channel where it looked to me like Charlie was being shot from the rear. There's Zeb. So this is, I've got a warning on this video saying, hey, it contains images that people might find disturbing. And what I do in this video, you might want to go full frame on this if you can. I basically isolated the part where we see a projectile coming at Charlie. And then in the next frame, it looks like it's penetrated his neck and caught the collar of his shirt. But then in the frame after that, it appears to be behind him. So people interpreted that as something moving in reverse or a bug or something. But I don't think so. Because again, we need to understand how video compression works. I believe what we're seeing in this video is an MPEG artifact. MPEG is a video compression standard that was ratified by the Motion Picture Experts Group. So there's the first image that we see of what I think is a low-speed projectile. Now, Jason, you've got more expertise in using and operating guns than I do. I think this was shot by like a high-powered air rifle, something that sends a projectile maybe in the range of 300 to 500 feet per second. Because what we see here is, let's just look at this. Here it is midair. And what I'm alleging is that it's shot this way from outside the tent from somebody in the underpass, maybe on the other side of the underpass. And here it is captured midair heading towards Charlie. Okay, I'm playing the video again. Now in the subsequent frame, I allege it's penetrated just below the base of his skull, maybe right through, at the center of your neck. Your skull has kind of a high point where there's, the soft tendons and muscle in your neck. I think this thing has penetrated his neck. It's deflected downward about 19 degrees, come out the front of his neck. And in less time than it takes for the blood to start flowing out, the projectile has caught the collar of his shirt. Look at this very pronounced pinch of the shirt. That's not the shock wave from a bullet coming from the front of him. I think this is a projectile catching the collar and stretching the shirt. But the projectile, the slow-moving 300 to 500 feet per second projectile, has lost so much of its kinetic energy by penetrating Charlie's flesh that it's now stopped by the shirt. It stretches it out. It comes back, and it's bouncing around inside his shirt. It goes down the front of his shirt. Now, in this frame, the projectile, see, it's the same frame. This is the same frame where the shirt is stretched and the projectile is now seen back here. Well, how does that make sense? I'm saying that I believe this is what's called a ghost frame. MPEG is a video compression scheme that analyzes a group of frames and it says, well, what's changing in this image? Charlie is sitting there. The tent is not moving at all. So to save space and to compress the file, make it take less space on your computer, less time to download on the internet, the video compression analyzes the whole entire frame and it only updates elements of the frame that have changed from one moment to the next. When you have these very fast-moving things, particularly high contrast fast-moving things, like this tiny little essentially white dot over a black background, this confuses the MPEG compression. And it's actually showing us this dot in an instant after it was there. This dot in real life was present prior to this, but it's being shown 1/60th of a second later when it's actually over here penetrating Charlie's neck and stretching out the shirt. And when you draw a line from these two dots that appear, it goes right to the base of his skull. It would enter his skull. it would deflect downward 19 degrees and come out the front of his neck and catch the shirt. And the ball goes down, or the projectile goes down the front of his shirt. That is what I believe has happened here. Now, what I want to break on your show today that I haven't even published on X yet, I haven't put this anywhere. I just discovered this morning. As I mentioned, Zeb and I were analyzing this video. He provided the video to me. And after he provided the video, I discovered that it was a 20 frame per second video and that presented a problem because videos are normally 30 frames per second. And so how did we get to 20? It occurred to me that someone must have shot this at 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second and then re-encoded it at 20 frames per second. Because what we now have was on the left, this separate video. And this is very interesting because let's watch the whole thing again. And I want people to pay attention, not to the sound, but look at how it moves. The two videos track essentially the same action, right? Charlie leans forward, the camera zooms out, but now we have this weird zoom in on the left. That I think is done in post-production. And it isn't done, or at least it doesn't seem to be done by I Am Ricky Diaz because his logo doesn't change. The video has just zoomed in on the left in a way that differs from the video on the right. That is a post-production zoom done with digital software to get closer to Charlie. And I don't think Ricky Diaz did it because look, now we're panning around, we see the same hat. That's not two different people making a video of the same thing. If it was two people standing next to each other after the shot, the motion of the hand would be chaotic and they wouldn't be capturing the same people running around. One person would go one way, the other person would go the other way. So what I'm saying is these two videos originate from the same source. And because the one on the left is 30 frames per second, and seems to have slightly smoother motion than the one on the right, which is 20 frames per second, I believe they came from a source that is at least 60 frames per second. And when we started talking about this, somebody sent Zeb a new video that is 60 frames per second, but it's not the original video because it's just the 20 frame per second video that's been duplicated in software and comes out with just tripled frames. So what I'm getting at here, Jason, I realize this is very confusing for people to follow. It's very technical. I'm going to make more videos that will explain this in more detail. And as the details come out, I hope that people will understand it. This is a very complicated, I believe this is a trick coming from a sophisticated party. And it's designed to look like, oh, well, you know, this guy downloaded it and re-uploaded it and he didn't know. This is innocent mistakes of people screen capturing on their phone and doing this and doing that. But I don't think so, because that type of zoom in directly on Charlie, it's not really the type of thing that you could do on your phone. It's going to have been done in something like Adobe Premiere or Adobe After Effects or DaVinci Resolve, some sort of sophisticated software that allows the operator of that software to do things to the video that the average person is not going to know how to do. And the fact that they're coming out in the sequence that they are leads me to believe that a sophisticated party is trying to thwart this sort of crowdsourced investigation that's going on throughout the internet. Unlike 1963, when JFK happened, whether we believe that Abraham Zapruder was an innocent haberdasher, or I think he was a women's dressmaker, whether he's just a guy in the clothing business who happens to be filming the parade on his 16 millimeter camera, or he's an FBI plant, as some people allege, whatever we think, there's really only one very well-known film of the JFK incident, and that took 12 years to reach the public. So certainly now, and particularly after Butler, Pennsylvania, if we do believe that sophisticated parties conspired to assassinate Charlie Kirk, which I believe, I don't think it was a 22-year-old kid with a gay furry boyfriend on the roof.
Right.
I don't believe that. I think this was a group of sophisticated parties, whether that's Israel, CIA, internal group that knows Charlie Kirk and has some motive to kill him. I don't know who did this, but I do believe it was a sophisticated group with money capabilities, knowledge, and of course, they would have an associated media campaign because they know who now, after Butler, Pennsylvania, not only do they know that people will be investigating this, they know who the individual parties are, what our skills are. They know that John Cullen is very sophisticated in terms of doing acoustic analysis. And I allege they're likely to insert evidence that will confound that process. They know that I'm going to come in here and do a forensic video analysis, and they're going to try to confound that process. So I believe we are just at the beginning of finding evidence that will ultimately prove that sophisticated parties are trying to fool us even now.
I 100% agree. And it's interesting because now I am not an expert in any of this stuff. It's just, I've always been interested in the political aspect. And now I'm interested in the, for lack of a better word, conspiracy of this, because it doesn't make any sense to me. And that truth seeking mind, like, comes to these things and says, okay, what's actually going on here? But me, from a biased viewpoint, I'm actually fascinated by this, which is it's 2025. And the way my mind works in watching these young university students and just young people in general, TikTok is exploding just in general. Instagram's exploding. People are putting reels on. I mean, I always say my wife's a very productive person, but when she decompresses at night, she'll look through, reels like, dogs, puppies, marketing, just random stuff, right? We are a telephone society. And when I say telephone, that sounds horrible. We are a cell, mobile phone, technology, AI society now. And one of the things that I thought within probably days afterwards was, you're telling me out of what looks like several thousand university kids, most likely, that we only have a couple cell phone videos to go off of, when in reality, this is the most cell phone centric generation probably we've ever seen, obviously. And I'm not saying, and again, this is a biased perspective for me. I just look at this going, you're telling me this is all we have of this? This is as close, like there aren't, I go to an event, right? I mean, I was just at my daughter's gymnastics event, and, I have my phone up because I want to look at the video afterwards for, as an athlete and as a coach, dad, whatever. Like, I have my phone up looking at it, but I'm getting as close as I can to get high quality.
Right.
And I'm doing it as a fan, but as a dad,
right.
Fan mentality. Charlie Kirk is a celebrity. These kids up front, and not that we want to watch a bunch of gore videos, but you're telling me
there should be 100.
You're telling me nobody up front next to that fence is taking live video of him or recorded video of him that didn't then hit the internet?
Let me address that, because there's something else. Now, people also saw that I went pretty viral with these videos about drones. So this is from Adam Bartholomew's live stream. Well, sorry, this is from his uploaded video. So he's live streaming for 19 minutes without an issue. And then he's up on the balcony here and he's talking to some of the students. And 1 second before the shot is fired, his live stream was cut out. And if it wasn't for Adam's ingenuity, he had triple redundancy on recording this video. 2 of the things failed. The live stream failed. The internal recording failed. This was recorded on his iPad. And so, there's this guy Blake out there who's saying that every dot in the sky is a drone. That's not true. I think he's part of the effort to confuse people. This is clearly a bird that I identified. And I couldn't have done any of this if we didn't have Adam Bartholomew's 8 gigabyte high quality iPad recording. But so here's where Charlie is about to get shot. Here we see a wasp flying. You can see the wings flapping, the segmented body wiggling around. That's clearly an insect. It's amazing that his camera was able to resolve that, but there it is. It's not a drone. It's something small, close to the camera. It takes a long time to traverse the frame. And then boom, the shot is fired. Charlie's been shot. On his YouTube live stream, this was not recorded. So if someone was in the audience trying to live stream instead of record, which a lot of people might have been doing, they're going to be confused as to why their live stream didn't work. But what I allege was happening is this was a Bluetooth low energy exploit, because what we're about to see, I further allege, is a drone. And I don't think the drones were shooting. Look at this. This is an orbital flight right over the crowd. I don't think birds are attracted to gunshots. I see birds fly away when guns go off.
Yeah,
I don't
don't
think
birds
birds
get
are.
scared? Don't get birds get
Yes.
scared and fly away?
I think so. And don't birds not like chaotic human activity? They're not like, hey, what's going on over there?
Right.
The birds are all flying over there in the valley where there's a lake and fish and all kinds of stuff that birds are interested in, not buildings and humans screaming and running from gunfire. That looks to me like the orbital flight of a reconnaissance drone. Then we get this thing that's further away. It's hard to tell what it is, but look at it, it's emitting smoke. I've never seen a bird emit smoke. I think that's a lithium polymer powered drone that's about to have a catastrophic failure. Those LiPo batteries are very volatile and they catch on fire and they make black smoke. If it's not that, I think it's a hybrid electric drone burning gasoline. Simultaneously with that, we get this fast moving thing zipping upward. It shoots across the frame. Now it's closer to us than the other thing, and we can tell that because it's occluding the building behind it. So it's at least as close as that building, but it zips upward across the frame. And then here it looks like the same thing again. So this could be some sort of high speed thing with a high speed camera doing more reconnaissance flights around the area. But, you know, we've separately identified
It
this
also has a little bit of
ISR.
shine on it at a certain angle in the sun. The top of it almost has a glistening shine to it, which I don't think
Right.
a bird has that.
I agree. That's the thing. I mean, we don't know definitively what these things are, but what we do is we look at the evidence and we try to discern from the best available evidence, what is it likely to be? And that means that not every dot that comes on screen is definitely a drone. The other important evidence is we had this video with John Cullen where we've identified this ISR jet. This is part of the Hades program, the high accuracy detection and exploitation system. This is an electronic warfare jet. It's one of two that the US Army is developing. It's a new program, this Hades program, and the purpose of it is to do intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. High accuracy detection and exploitation sounds to me very much like what happened to Adam Bartholomew's live stream. This company, Oligo IT Security, they had identified this wormable zero-click remote code execution exploit, which is an exploit within Apple's Bluetooth stack that allows it to overload the Bluetooth, the AirPlay protocol, with Bluetooth requests, and it can cause the device to crash. It can inject malicious software. It can do all kinds of things. This is a professional IT company. I didn't know about this until I looked this up. They've dubbed this airborne, because you don't have to download anything. You don't have to go to any website. You don't have to click on a phishing email. This thing is an airborne exploit, an attack on your iOS device. So if we figure 50% of the students, or maybe 75% of the students, are using iPhones to live stream to TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and they've got a drone flying around doing this type of zero-click exploit to shut down everybody's live stream, we could go poll that crowd. For all we know, 100 people could say, yeah, I thought I was live streaming video of Charlie, but it never made it to the site. We know that happened to Adam Bartholomew. His live stream got shut down. How many other live streams got shut down? Was that Army Hades jet responsible for doing that, for deploying drones that did that? I don't know, but it sure seems like it. So here's this Hades jet.
Are they not interviewing college students at the Utah college? Like, what? I would think they'd be going around saying, "Hey, were you there? What did you see?" I haven't seen anything online.
In my experience, I have been contacted by some people who say, "Oh yeah, my kid was there, my friend's kid was there." And I asked one person, "Can you ask them if they'll give me anything they recorded on their phone?" And the person got back to me and said, "This girl is too traumatized to talk about it." I mean, they just witnessed the most violent, disgusting thing most people will ever see in their entire life. They're not like, "Oh yeah, here's my video. Let me be on a live stream and talk about it."
It's a delicate subject, yeah.
It's a delicate subject. Just quickly back to this Hades jet. Here it is. This is the US Army telling you that this high accuracy detection and exploitation system is going to modernize aerial military intelligence. And they say that during the Civil War, they used aerial technology like balloons, kites, and pigeons to gather intelligence and survey the battlefield, giving ground commanders the ability to make informed decisions. But today, this project, Aerial ISR, it still has the same mission, and they want to upgrade it with a modern jet that has all kinds of capabilities. This very ISR jet was flying directly over Utah Lake minutes before Charlie was killed. What was it doing there? We don't know. But then Adam Bartholomew's live stream is shut down. We see that at least one IT company has identified this type of aerial, zero click. Somebody can launch this attack at your phone. If they found one 0-day exploit, there could be 100 that the Army knows about that we don't. That could have been a Wi-Fi attack, a different type of Bluetooth attack. We have no idea. But we see these drones. Everybody knows that drones can fly around with cameras, radio receivers, radio transmitters. I haven't seen a drone that small, that flies that fast, that can shoot a projectile as accurately as what we saw hit Charlie. It's possible, but I don't think that's the most likely scenario. I think the most likely scenario is that the drones were conducting ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. They enabled high accuracy detection and exploitation of enemy targets. Anybody who was recording this event that wasn't under control of whoever was in charge of this event. The reason for doing that would have been to control the release of information so that only decimated videos with 20 frames per second or low resolution or, videos that they control. This video here on the right, it looks to me like it was shot with a very new iPhone, a 15, a 16, maybe even a 17. Maybe it was recorded at 240 frames per second. That would explain why we're able to capture 2 or 3 frames of a relatively slow moving projectile. Something moving, other people could calculate this. I'm not a math genius, but something moving 300 feet per second, 500 feet per second, I believe we could capture a frame or 2 or 3 of that at 240 frames per second. We might be able to. Certainly much more easily than something moving 1,000 feet per second or 2,000 feet per second. You wouldn't be able to easily capture that, but something at a quarter of the speed. And by the way, if the person recording this video in the audience at 240 frames per second was part of the team, this is part of their reconnaissance. They want to understand what happened. And okay, we have the 240 frame video, put out a 20 frame video so that people don't understand what's going on. Oh no. Zeb Boykin and Jason Goodman are catching on. Confuse them. Put out a 30 frame video. Put out a 60 frame video that duplicates the 20 frames. Confound this investigation. I think that's what's going on, Jason.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think about this, and again, I'm not trained in any of this, but if this is the operation that it appears to be, because I said from day one, and again, this is just my own mindset. So I'm not a hunter. I mean, I hunted a long time ago, but not recently. I don't believe a 22-year-old 4.0 GPA random kid. And, Rogan said the other day on his thing, he's like, oh yeah, you give me like 6 weeks with somebody or a week with somebody, and I can have them shooting from that distance with that. The stress, the adrenaline, that maybe MK Ultra, that's fine. But the average kid, are they going to be able to sit down, crouch down, do what they did, then have the calm and determination to apparently take it apart, get down, not go back. None of that makes sense, which means this has to be a very high level operation, which takes a lot of moving parts that clearly, people are pulling apart now, but it's just mind blowing to me of what this required. And then on top of that, no autopsy.
Right.
We don't know who the bullet is, if there is a bullet.
Let's stay on your first point for a second, because we're told that this guy, Tyler Robinson, he jumped off the roof. He was up there shooting, et cetera, et cetera. He's got this furry boyfriend. That's proven by these weird text messages. One thing I noticed is this really unusual facial congruity between this is Tyler and this is one of the 3 or 4. There are only, again, a very small number of low quality images of this Twigs, whatever the furry kid's name is. And as you said, how does this kid not have a million high 4K resolution pictures of himself on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok? All we have, hello? I think my sound just got, oh, there we go. All we have are these low resolution images of the other kid. Now, if you put this guy in sunglasses and a black outfit, does he really look any different than this guy? And now they're saying that the furry boyfriend disappeared, I think. So what the hell happened to this kid? And how do we know that this isn't some kind of magic trick just to, make us think that one guy is the other guy or whatever the hell is going on? No one's talking to this guy who's supposedly in jail, or maybe he's in jail. We don't know what's going on. Plus, the second somebody goes into jail, how do we know that, they're not going to have Jeffrey Epstein come over there and install some surveillance cameras in the guy's jail cell, and suddenly he's going to disappear? Oh, he killed himself or whatever. We never see the guy again. We don't know what happened to him. Or conversely, what if he's convicted and they say, okay, we're putting him in solitary confinement, and some warden goes and locks him in the shoe, and then we never see him again. They could let him out, take him someplace else, let him go. And, here we go. We got Jeffrey Epstein. He's here to install the security cameras.
So, Jason, I was going to ask you this. Really, I just remembered this because another point was that I can't believe that Turning Point USA, one of the first things I looked at, it didn't get a lot of cover. It didn't go very far in here, but that doesn't matter to me. I was just curious. They report anywhere from 85 million to $100+ million a year in revenue from donations and merchandise sales, etc. In other words, a lot of money. They don't have that many employees. That it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I am shocked that an open air venue, there's no security on roofs. There's nobody watching out for anything. No one would have picked up on a sniper from a roof from a distance. And then on top of that, and maybe I'm wrong there again, I'm not an expert, but on top of that, there's a university. My dad actually, he's retired now, but he was in public school surveillance. And it was a small school in the middle of New York, like Podunkville, right? They had cameras.
Right.
They could pick up anything, to the point where, like, we have your mug right here, and they would still deny it. Like, this is your face, right? You're telling me you're telling me this university doesn't have cameras everywhere?
You're right.
It's kind of like 9/11, when they, like, everything after years they go, oh, we have this one camera view that's totally blurry of the Pentagon, but nothing else.
You've made several very good points there, and I agree with everything you're saying. But perhaps one of the most important things that you just said is the amount of money going through Turning Point USA. And anytime you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, that presents a motive for the criminally minded to try to steal it. And so I'm not pointing a finger at anyone specifically. I'm just saying, when I started Crowdsource the Truth, I mean, we haven't made anywhere near that level of money, but multiple individuals have attempted to infiltrate my trust to do something untoward to me. And it defies logic to presume that nobody would be attempting to do that to Charlie Kirk, to try to get in there, to try to take over the organization, even if it's just to control the money, to control the influence, whatever it is. Bad actors, psychopathic people might hatch a plan that would involve posing as his closest friend, spending perhaps even years gaining his trust in order to be able to betray him, steal from him, take things from him. When I used to run 21st Century 3D, betrayal never comes from somebody that you don't know. It's someone who is close to you.
Yep.
And it's sad to say, you look throughout Judas, right?
Yeah. Throughout
human history, betrayal is there.
Donald Trump actually said that a long time ago. I think he was on that, I don't remember his name, but he was on one of those talk shows with a very popular guy, just sitting at a table, and he said something about getting back at people And President Trump, well, Donald Trump at the time said that he is an eye for an eye personality because he's seen betrayal. And he says he's a very loyal person, but he said, it's amazing. You would never guess who the ones that would betray you are. And it's always the ones who are the closest to you.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
I mean, it really, like, it's so messed up. And
just to be clear, Jason,
yeah,
I don't even know the names of the people who are close to Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
I don't know their relationships. I am not specifically accusing any person in Turning Point USA of doing anything. I'm just saying, in a general sense, when you have a company where there's $100 million at stake, there's going to be someone out there in the world who wants to infiltrate and take that.
There's also influence at that point as well, which means, and again,
Right.
I'm also not accusing anybody of anything, but when donors give a lot of money, typically, and many times, not all of them, some are just giving, many will want to steer the ship a little bit from a standpoint of opinion, maybe.
Right.
And what if that opinion is not being promoted correctly?
Right.
Or what if the person who's in front of the camera doesn't want to go that direction? I mean,
Right.
let's not be naive in the fact that human history is littered with people who, you know, you didn't go with the talking points, so they offed you. I mean, the mafia is shown on television and movies for a reason. Like it happens.
Well, let's address that for a second, because I agree with you that there is evidence there that's worth investigating. But Charlie Kirk was not in the mafia. See, when you are in that criminal world, the mafia is dealing with heroin smuggling and prostitution and gambling and a number of things that if anyone were caught and implicated, they would go to jail for a long, long time. So the notion that restitution in that world involves murder, I get it. But Charlie Kirk is going around talking about Jesus and Christianity and family and the types of things where people who would want to dethrone him, in my view, would be more motivated to not to kill him, but to discredit him by entrapping him in some kind of scandal or getting him involved in some kind of lawsuit or theft of money, something that would cause everyone to think, oh, this is a terrible guy. He loses his influence and he has to be removed as the CEO of that thing and get him out of here. By murdering him and introducing this criminal aspect and also the highest level of crime you can imagine, it puts so much scrutiny on who did that. And why did they do that? That I feel like there's got to be some other motive where whoever did it wants this murder to be the central focus. If it was just eliminating Charlie Kirk because he's not adhering to our talking points, wouldn't somebody try to entrap him with a hooker or entrap him with drugs or entrap him in some kind of money laundering scheme where they could say, oh my God, this guy who we thought was such a great icon of honesty and Christianity.
Character defamation is far better than literal physical killing.
And nobody but him would be implicated in a crime. His career would be ruined. His influence would be removed and somebody else gets put in there. By murdering him, the focus has become this assassination. So there's something about it that they wanted his death to be a motivator to something. It almost is like, look, we've heard about this guy, Archduke Ferdinand, who the beginning of World War I was attributed to his assassination. Is the murder of Charlie Kirk intended to spark the next World War? The timing of it is certainly coincident with world events. You know, Trump is changing his stance on Ukraine. That could lead to a world war. All this activity between Israel and Gaza has been really putting pressure on the concept of a wider war. All of these influencers in social media who are pushing this anti-Israel, conflating Judaism with Zionism, which that's an important thing for people to understand. I'm Jewish by heritage, but I do not support Zionism.
I actually appreciate you talking about that
movement.
because usually the influencers who have questions, I've brought it up in the past before, and I've had to I actually, Media Matters did a hit job on me over anti-Semitism. And every time I talk about it, I try to go, I'm not talking about the Jewish Israeli people who want to be happy. They want families.
Not even
whatever.
just Jewish Israeli people. Jewish
governments
people
and
all
cabals.
over the world. Jewish people all over the world. I'm Jewish by birth and by heritage. Zionism is a political movement. You
Right.
can be Christian and be a Zionist. You can be Jewish and be a Zionist. You could be an atheist and be a Zionist. They are two separate things. And the problem is there is a proliferation of ignorance where people say, oh, Jason is Jewish. He's protecting Israel. I've never been to Israel. I don't take a stance on Israel any more than I do Mexico or Germany or Spain or the United States of America. The truth of the matter is our country was formed in largely the same way Israel was. Europeans came here, killed a bunch of people. They say, hey, this is nice land, a lot of resources. Why don't we kill all you and take
I
it?
am actually Native American both sides, and I always have to tell people that. I'm like, it was our land first.
So this is the way every single nation on earth today was formed.
Right.
Somebody was there. Somebody else came along and said, I like this place. Bang, I'm taking it. And now we have nations. And so I'm not defending Israel. I'm not implicating Israel. I am looking at evidence. And the evidence that I see indicates that sophisticated parties with sophisticated capabilities planned this, and for reasons that I don't yet understand, wanted to murder Charlie Kirk, and they succeeded.
That's about what I can see. I've gone back between many theories. I watched your guys' stuff on the drones from like last week and everything, and I go, okay, that's good points as well. I'm watching, whether good or bad, I watch what Tucker has said. I don't watch them all, but I'm watching clips. I'm seeing what they're saying. I watch what Candace says, and I don't know who's the real influencer, who's actually being truthful, who's being paid by somebody. I'm looking at all these theories, and everything that comes back is, I don't know which one's right or a combination, but this is BS. The official story is complete and utter nonsense. And it's kind of scary that Americans in general, not all, are buying a hook, line, and sinker again.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, everything you just said. The other thing that also bothers me just about any subject is when we have a group, like I'm not in here saying, no, Israel didn't do it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we can't approach an incident like this with a conclusion and then go seek out evidence to support the conclusion.
Good point.
There's a lot of people who I see saying, oh, Israel blew up pagers on Hamas, so that means the microphone on Charlie Kirk's shirt blew up and that's what killed him, and therefore Israel did it. I also released last night this video. So this is the second video that I obtained from an eyewitness from their phone. And this, I've zoomed in on the video and we can see, let me just play this from the beginning so people can understand the sequence of what's happening.
10 years. 10 years.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
So for the people who say that this magnetic DJI microphone, which is a product that a lot of people can see and can buy and are familiar with how it works, this is a clip-on wireless lavalier microphone that's magnetically attached to Charlie's shirt. And there are some people who are saying, oh, it blew up and that's what killed him. And because Israel was able to blow up pagers, Israel is blowing up the microphone. Well, okay, maybe that happened, but how do we explain that the exploding microphone stayed magnetically attached to his shirt and didn't go flying when it blew up? How do we explain that the shirt doesn't have burn marks on it? We don't see a flash. We don't have any heat, no chemical stains on the shirt. Explain that to me, and perhaps I'll start to agree. I'm just saying, I'm not taking any bias one way or another. Israel did it, CIA did it, people at Turning Point did it, his security did it. I don't know who did it. I'm just looking at the evidence, and I do not see an exploding microphone there. I see a DJI microphone that gets disrupted when it looks like a bullet comes through his shirt and momentarily disrupts his shirt. But when the fabric of the shirt relaxes, the microphone is still attached. That's a pretty strong magnet that's holding it on there that doesn't get knocked off by a bullet. But people who own that microphone have said it does use a very strong magnet. I think if it was exploding, that might knock it off, but
Right.
Just pulling the fabric with a projectile. And remember, the kinetic energy of that projectile has been mostly diffused by traveling through Charlie Kirk's neck and just basically popping out the front into his shirt. It has almost no kinetic energy when it comes out the other side. If it were a 30-06 or even a 226 or some other high power, or whatever, 223, I'm not a gun expert. I just know that I see every other gun expert, every other hunting YouTube channel saying, I've shot deer, I've been in the military, and I've seen people get shot. I have experience with guns, and high-powered rifle bullets go through things. They don't fall down and get caught in your shirt.
Right.
Exploding microphones would leave chemical residue, heat, light. They would do certain things that explosions do, and that doesn't seem to be doing it. So there must be some other explanation. By the way, nothing I'm saying excludes Israel or Mossad members or former Mossad members.
MI6 or anybody else.
Right.
Doesn't have to be Israel.
Could be anybody. I'm just not making any conclusion about who did this. I'm just still evaluating what happened.
No, 100%. And much appreciated. It's I've been watching it for a couple of weeks, checking out your guys' stuff, and I try to stay with. You can tell online because X has become almost a cesspool of just nonsense anymore. So trying to stay with people who, like yourself, are appearing to look at objective evidence and not saying like this is what it is, but okay, this is a point. This is data. Like we have to take this in, bring our data together, form opinions as we go. Doesn't mean we'll ever have the full answer, but we're getting closer to something that at least makes more sense for ourselves. And I appreciate that, man.
And Jason, I think one of the most important things that we can do on your platform and my platform, anybody else's who sees this, is to put out a call to the audience, to anyone who is seeing this. If you were at the event at Utah Valley University on September 10th, 2025, and you recorded video or photos on your phone or some other camera, or anybody you know did that, it's important that you get in touch with Jason or with me. People can follow me on X at JG_CSTT. You can send me a DM on there. You can make a comment. I try to look at all the comments. It's difficult to do, but we need to get in touch with the people who have recorded these videos because we want the original files, not for the gory and sensational aspect of it, but for the forensic evidentiary value. It is impossible to correctly evaluate these decimated, recompressed, uploaded, transcoded, cropped, screen captured, damaged files. We need the original data to make the best evaluation that we can make. And Jason, I want to thank you for inviting me on your show, and I want to thank everybody for watching. I just want to find out what happened. Charlie Kirk wasn't a personal friend of mine or anything like that, but he was a decent guy, seems like an honest man to me, and he's a fellow American who was murdered. I would do this for anybody who had something like this happen to them. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible crime, and I think it's got to be solved.
100%. And before Jason goes, I do want to highlight this for him. This is what he does. This is his gig. So if you are apt to want to go and support, here is his Substack, and you can find it. It all originates on his X account, so you can go over there. And then also, he actually, if you want to support him over at Crowdsource the Truth on Subscribestar, you can do that as well. He's on Subscribestar, and also you're on
Patreon.
That's right. So go over there, support his work. You guys have some fun on the I think it's Friday nights or stuff like that, and just looking for truth, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jason. And
absolutely, everybody. This is Jason Goodman. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Again, just go for the truth. Do the best you possibly can. And we'll see you on Monday. If any more details come up, obviously, we'll have Jason back as well, but also we'll report on it. So take care, everybody. Be well. Bye-bye.